Right, people, let's talk about this. This is a fascinating situation, which I think speaks on the whole of PSR, the transfer window, and so much more. And the fact that Kobbie Mainoo, in particular, I'm going to focus on him a little bit more here, going to Manchester United, but broadly, the situation Man United find themselves in is, I guess, a fascinating symbol of this phase of financial fair play within the Premier League and Europe, and how that is really, really affecting different people and different teams and the squad building. And also, as time progresses, we're starting to maybe see what the actual playbook is in terms of surviving financial fair play. I'm going to talk about Mainoo, and I'm going to talk about if he would fit in the Chelsea team, how that would work, what you're going to lose by losing him in this Man United side, and broadly speak about that as an option in terms of losing him. But as I say, I want to go broader than that because this is really interesting to me. Look at this. This is the net balance since 2014. And as you can see, Manchester United have nearly spent £2 billion on arrivals, on transfers. And they've brought in 587 million. And so the balance is not good, right? Chelsea have spent a hell of a lot, 2.55 billion, 337 arrivals. But also, they've brought in a lot more money. And you can see there from the strategy of what Chelsea have been doing for a very, very long time, which is kind of stockpiling assets. And so have you ever played this game? It's called Prince and Pauper. So I'm going to kind of do it here. I've got some Topps cards from the Euros. And it's quite a good one, really, because so in Prince and Pauper, in this card game, you have people at the sort of who are the princes, and they get given they have their cards, and they have to they get given the best cards from the pauper. And I think with these big clubs nowadays, and any club in football, what you're looking for are, you want as many good cards in your hand. And Man United at the moment have 4 cards to play with. Chelsea have 15, 20 cards to play with. Let me show you exactly what I mean, because I think as much as we've gone after Chelsea in terms of what they've done, maybe they were a step ahead. Again, I think there's another phase past this where it's one where can you actually sell these players once you've stockpiled them? But in terms of creating assets that you can sell and then put through your books in a way that kind of works for you, both the ins and the outs, but also getting assets that could turn into those gems that you could sell for big, big money. The next phase for me is, can you actually even sell them for big money anymore? Like, has that game gone? But look at this. This is the squad list for Man United. And the truth is, because of the poor recruitment time and again of this, you find yourself in a situation where Ratcliffe wants to start again. Like, they want to be able to start again. And how do you start again? You start again by doing what everyone else does, is you kind of clear the decks and you bring in new players. But how do you do that when you're making a loss 5 years on the spin and you're spending money on the players that you have and you have a squad that's sort of as bloated as it is and you're worried about the rules and regulations and how they could hurt you? Well, you have to sell some assets. And the reason why I think this Kobbie Mainoo situation is so fascinating is that the two characters within it, Chelsea, who are up for it in terms of having another player, do they actually even need him? We'll get to that. And Man United, with the feeling that they might actually sell. And Man United fans, first of all, like, is this going to happen? Is this just contract waffle? Could absolutely be that. But that's not the point here. So stay with me. It's about having a conversation about what does a healthy squad look like for the biggest teams, for the teams that spend the most, for the teams that want to spend 100 million on players. What does that look like? Okay. So it's not about will he go or won't he go, because that's kind of going to be down the line. There's no way I don't think there's any way you would sell him in January unless you're going to get an offer that you kind of can't refuse. But are they getting to a position, and would Ratcliffe be thinking about going, do you know what? We've got a player here that he's fine. He's pretty solid, but we can put it through wholeheartedly as profit. That is the situation we're in these days. That is the situation that you have when it comes to your academy products. And that leads to the next phase, which is, are we going to start looking at players a bit differently? Because getting something new and fresh and older, or prime or previously proven in some way, you're taking them from one environment and bringing them into yours, and it might not work. Are you better sticking with what you've got? Because in terms of this team, and this is sort of, this is the team that played against Liverpool for Man United, and in terms of this midfield area, you need Mainoo right now. But has he got the athleticism, and is his progressive passing going to get good enough for him to really kind of own that role in an Amorim system? Because if not, or if you're not sure, or if you're certain you can get someone else who's better, and you feel like Mainoo might have a ceiling, and again, this is me not saying that, I'm not saying he has any kind of ceiling. I think he's clearly wonderful, like frighteningly good technically. And my belief is that he is just going to go through the gears, because in terms of finding your footing as a footballer, this ship that he's been on has been swaying from side to side from the moment he's got there, and he's still impressed. So imagine him in a team that, think of the chemistry of a team that you really, really know all the different passing networks without even thinking about it, knowing that from the blink of an eye, he's going to, Højlund's going to go and make that channel run, so you don't even need to think about it. Know that when you're on one side of the pitch, if you, move it and switch it over to this side, everything's fine. All of these things come with time, right? So he hasn't been afforded that time. But you come back to, I'm going to keep coming back to this, I'm afraid. When you're in that kind of position and you've got PSR on your back, you need to go and find sellable assets. And those sellable assets are far less available for Man United than they are for Chelsea. Let's have a look at this. So this is, the transfer market. Transfer marked. I know people get annoyed when I say transfer market. Transfer marked, and this is their market value. And look, it's based on their kind of algorithm, what they want to do, and it's just to get a bit of a sense check on it. And a great website that offers a lot of value for a lot of people. Okay, so don't go hammering them. Okay, but the point is that when we click it on market value, 60 million, 55 million, Marcus Rashford, Mainoo. These are the players. Now, do you want 70 million for Mainoo? Probably, because he's a 19-year-old. He's got a nice lengthy contract there. If you were going to look to do that, but if you could go in terms of Rashford, they're struggling to sell him because of the wages. Bruno, you're struggling to sell him because he's 30, and you need him. Rasmus, does anyone really want him? They might not want him for the same amount right now, and actually might have a really good player there. So you've got power in terms of if you wanted to sell Rasmus Højlund, but in terms of an appetizing asset that you can sell, Mainoo is fourth on that list, but probably the strongest. And one where some may have question marks. Garnacho, I think, is another one. I would put forward the idea that Garnacho is actually a really sellable asset for Man United, because when he's played as that 10, I don't think it's really worked, if I'm honest. I'm going to have a quick look at him from that position. I think he struggled in this area here. We said when we did our video on how Amorim might set up, we wanted him as a left wing back. He has got that, he has got the capacity in terms of energy to get up and down and affect the game if you're having someone who is essentially a winger back more so than a wing back. But in this 10 role, I don't see it. I don't think it works. I think the only way you're really going to use him is as a substitute. So if you have an asset that can get you 60 million pure profit, that's worth looking at right now. It really, really is. So Garnacho, maybe. But Mainoo, it feels a bit more severe, doesn't it? Because he's one of your own. He's on a long enough contract. So again, I don't see him going anytime soon. But again, it's about talking about where are Man United right now? Because I think Ruthless Ratcliffe. I think he is the kind of guy that just moves it on and looks to sort of fail fast to go to therefore succeed quicker. And when you look at Chelsea's squad, there's a conversation here in the sense that, like, okay, yes, the outlay's been outrageous, but you have a lot, and this is their market value. Let's start with the ages. 22, 23, 24, 21, 23, 27, 22, 21, 26. No one is really over 27, right? Every single one of these, sellable assets, really strong sellable assets that you can get a solid amount for. And even the ones that currently saying like 1 million. Josh Achampong, we've done a video on Mark Gay and him maybe coming in and that taking opportunities away from Achampong. He's not worth, his market value is not 1 million. Trust me, he is a superstar. And you've got other big players on the way as well. So all of a sudden, when you're thinking of an asset in 2025, as much as you want those guys that are the Cole Palmers of this world, that, like, if you want him, he's going to cost you 130 million. You actually really want exactly what Chelsea have kind of created a little bit here. You want this £25 million player that you paid £25 million for, that someone will spend £25 million on. And that's why Keenan Dewsbury Hall, there's this sort of flippancy in terms of buying a player like that, right? But if you buy him, it doesn't work out and you want to change it, someone will give you 20 million for him. I think they probably will. I might be wrong with this. I might be totally wrong. But that next phase of play, and as I say, a squad that looks healthy moving forward is not that Man United squad. We just went all the way down the list there. You go all the way down the list here. As I say, the second number's a 30-year-old. After that, to be fair, the age of these players isn't too bad, but a lot of them you've already spent a solid chunk of money on. Like 50 for Ugarte, 50 for Martinez, 50 for Euro. And we're getting to about here and we're done, aren't we? Luke Shaw, you're not going to get huge money for him. Anthony, no. Maguire, no. Casemiro, no. Lindelof, no. None of them. Whereas Chelsea, let's go up. There we go. We're going down. I think you can get Chukwuemeka, good player, great player. Vega, great player. All the way down here. So what we thought was an outrageously bloated squad is now a situation where you have one club that has no money and has 4 cards. And so if you've only got 4 cards and you need to make some more money from it, I'm aware this analogy's lost its way. It's gonna hurt when you give one over to get what you need to look to kind of start again. Whereas for Chelsea, it's like, I'd rather not give you my Zidane. I'd rather give you these 2 instead. I'll give you these 2 instead. Well, that kind of makes up to it. Or I'll sell these 2 elsewhere and I still get to keep this guy. And that's not really affected my squad in any way. It feels dangerous at the time, but maybe now, actually, Chelsea might have something. Now, I'm not a financial expert, so there's ins and outs here in terms of Chelsea needing to be able to bring money back in. But they have assets in their garage that they can sell. Where has this analogy gone on this point? Absolutely outstanding stuff from me. Come on. Have you not subscribed? What are you doing? This is a place where I want to have conversations, and I think in terms of the phase of PSR and financial fair play, that's what's really interesting to me, because that's how I know people haven't really been focusing on kind of those top teams and how they do it, because if this is going to go on, people got to be clever and cute in how they work. And these little clever moves, it actually will bring down the prices of those top players as well. And we might just see those top players always running out their contract and then moving on. And actually the only real money being exchanged here will be these £20-25 million punts on a 19-year-old that at 22 maybe can't do it, but is still, been associated with Chelsea and therefore is a good enough player for you to sell for 70 million, 20 million, but you get a couple of gems in there that actually turn out to be 60 million and get yourself in a good place as well. It's an interesting time because, again, the final thing I think with those squads is the fact that in terms of the wages, I'd have to go into it, but I did see I saw something somewhere that's like, of the top 25 teams when it came to the wages, Mason Mount was in there, Casemiro was in there, Rashford was in there. I want to say there was another one in there from Man United. So many big names in there of that top 25. And at the moment, you've got a team that the profiles don't fit, the depth doesn't feel like it's there, and you've not got any money to go and fix it. So anything could happen. Anything could happen. And is there a world where, as painful as it would be, is it in the best interest, long-term interest, for Man United to sell someone like Kobbie Mainoo because you can get 80 million for him? I was going to say, from a tactical point of view, I don't think it's one of those ones where I don't think Chelsea outrageously need him. This is a team for Chelsea where you're thinking, if you bring Mainoo into it, okay, he could do both of those, and he's a great option, sure. But if you're going to bring him in, he's then going to want solid wages. You've still got a good asset, but if not guaranteed to start, and you've also not even got put Enzo Fernandez in this squad, obviously, team, and he kind of needs to be in there, right? So it's a weird one for Mainoo. I think Mainoo wants to stay, and I think it's probably ultimately bollocks. But it's a good and interesting talking point when it comes to how the top teams navigate building their squad, because players do kind of want to go there, but the money situation is affecting it, and I am here for it. I like it. It means that Brighton and Bournemouth and Forest and Villa and all these teams can have their own little go and get there in time if they keep making smart decisions, and the quality is spread throughout the league. Final thing is will we be getting to a point where there's a decision here where it's very difficult to trust the potential of a player? But if you do start to stockpile those players, you have to commit to some of those guys kind of long term, because you might lose them and then they might go thrive elsewhere. And instead of buying Anthony for 90 million, would you have been better off sticking with Elanga? That's just one example, but those examples are going to continue on through. It's a fascinating talking point. I'm really excited to hear what you guys have got to say in the comments down below. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, this is what this will be. This is this kind of place. It's about conversation. So if you enjoy that, subscribe, hit the like button, and I'll speak to you next time. Oh yeah, we did a video on Rashford actually, talking about the clubs that he could go to. We've got a couple right already, so go check that out. All right.